I got music. That's pretty cool. Okay. Very good morning to everyone today. Thank you for joining me. My name is Sui, as you can see from the very large screen behind me. I'd like to thank everyone for joining me to allow me to share what I've experienced and what we at Nest have experienced in the future of technology as it is applied in a retail context, in a retail environment. What I'd like to do today is to give you some examples of what we've worked with new startups and technology when it comes to applying new technology in the retail context, but especially with the different types of businesses that we've worked with. And what I want to do is give you tangible examples of what we can expect all here as consumers as we go through and we develop the new customer journey of the future. I very much agree with what has been said previously on this stage, especially in two respects. One is that continued focus on the customer, and we'll speak more about the ways that the customer is being demanding on retailers and businesses. And secondly, especially when it comes to data or big data, how is that empowering businesses and retailers to make the right decisions and to create the interactive, seamless, personalized journey for the customers that they're facing. So I'd like to start, one, by giving a bit of background as to what we do and our interactions with this technology. My name, again, is Sui. I work with Nest. I'm managing partner of Hong Kong. We interact with startups to make them scale. And the way we do that in a key way is that we work with businesses, large institutions that have many consumers and that are large in their market. And we get the new startup to work with the large institution to apply the new technologies into market. Right? We work with corporates and governments especially, and we're looking to build these ecosystems of innovation that apply new technology in the markets that we're in, especially in Asia, Middle East, and Africa. We're very proud, for example, in Bangkok last year to have worked with and honored to work with the good team at Bangkok Bank with their InnoHub program. And we look to be doing more with them and more in Thailand as a key market for us as we go forward. So just to give a bit of background and context to what we see or how Nest sees retail trends and innovation, and what do we mean by that? The first thing, as I'd mentioned, is that the trend here is a consumer trend. What happens now is that the consumer very much is at the center and is creating the trend through his or her demand. This is what they expect now. It's not a matter of retailers and businesses pushing or educating the needs of the consumer. The demands are being pulled. The second thing, as I've spoken about, is innovation, and it is the technology that we're using and we're applying to meet those demands. So that's just the context of when I talk about, or when we talk about retail trends and innovation, that's what we mean. The customer is demanding something, and the technology is the way that we're going to meet those demands. So a few insights, and these are general insights. What I'll do is I'll go through some of these and then speak about the technologies that address some of these insights. The first thing, as I've discussed, is that it's the customer that is at the center here that are driving the innovation in retail. Just to give some examples of the different ways that we've seen that interacting, the customer journey is king. The touch points that every business has with their customer needs to be seamless and personalized such that the customer understands that he or she is being served. As a key example, it doesn't matter whether you are a bank or a retailer or an insurance company or a car manufacturer. The experience that is being demanded, they're all coming together. a key example. When you onboard or when you apply to become a customer at an institution, for example, a bank. I used to work in a bank. What is that journey? What is that experience? Typically, it's a lot of form filling. Nowadays, as a customer, I demand that my onboarding process to get a credit card or a loan should be as easy as me downloading an app and applying myself, for example, to Grab. I'll give you one classic example. Yesterday, I arrived in Bangkok yesterday. And previously, when I was in Bangkok, I was using Uber. So my wife said, we need to go to dinner, we need a car. And I said, okay, don't worry, I'll open Uber. But then when I opened Uber, it wasn't working. So my wife said, why don't we just download Grab? And in my mind, I was like, how long is that going to take? And she showed me. We did it instantly. Now, that experience is native, is normal when it comes to apps and startups. It's not yet normal when you talk about banks or insurance companies. But I'm going to start demanding that, and we see that demand happening when it comes across these different businesses. So the customer is driving that innovation. Secondly, as I've spoke about, it is the technology that is going to be the bridge that allows us to meet those customer demands. In particular, the offline to online merge on that customer journey is going to be critical. On my third point here, when we talk about customers not waiting around for us, I always look to the generation that is younger than me. I used to be young. I have a cousin who is younger than me, and when she was born, 3G networks were just coming on board. And that allowed, of course, larger and faster data to be transmitted into a device that you would hold, the rise of smartphones, etc. She's now turning 18 this year. She is the key demographic. She has purchasing power. Are retailers and businesses ready to serve what she's demanding with technology? Now, this is a slide that will be developed as we go through the different types of startups that address the technologies. And of course, as always, this is not an exhaustive way that we see the technologies being applied. I'll give you some tangible examples of what we've seen in the market that we can expect. And as we do that, I wanted to point out, of course, as speakers before me on this stage have said, data is part of every technology that we've seen in the market. It allows the collection of, the interaction of a retailer and a business with its consumer to allow a more personalized experience and a relationship between them. No longer is it, I'm selling and you're buying. That relationship is different. And what drives that ability and that journey is data. So throughout this hall, whatever technology that you see, a huge trend is the ability to collect, analyze, and use the data to enhance that customer journey. So data is in a box here, but really it applies throughout all these technologies. So what we've done here is given just some of the startups that are out there that are addressing these sort of technologies. And many of these we've had the pleasure of working together with, especially on the programs that we run. To give you a couple of examples to visualize what we do, I can see this is the online to offline experience because people are going to take this picture on their phone and it's going to go onto the cloud somewhere. That's your customer journey. I'll start maybe with a couple of interesting startups that we've had the pleasure to work with. On the top there, we've got Dove E. And this is someone that we worked with in Hong Kong. They're originally from Israel. And what they have is a technology that allows the use of simple speakers that already exist in a retail environment to communicate with the smartphones that are in your pocket with no extra hardware, no beacons. what they've done is that they've allowed a very low latency, in other words, a small use of battery on your phone, to be always listening so that if there is a communication via the speakers, then maybe there's a pop-up on your app, or maybe there's an interaction on your phone. But what that allows is contextual marketing without the use of beacons. And what that means is I can seamlessly walk into an area, not even in store, near a store, in a shopping mall. And if that shopping mall or that retailer understands me, my behavior, my needs on that day, and I might be a father on that day, or I might be a driver on that day, to give to me something that I want at that time. More than that, they also have a technology that is focused on payments. And so you would have seen that before, where you're able to pay using a mobile phone. But you can imagine their technology, their single platform, that allows not just the contextual marketing to say, here, why don't you drive the consumer into store to make a transaction, and then using the same technology to pay for that product. Something else that would be more visible and tangible is that says Mano Motion behind the light. But we've had the pleasure of working with Mano Motion again in Hong Kong. And what they're doing is developing the interaction between a consumer and the digital world. Now, typically, a lot of what we do currently is we interact using two dimensions. What I mean by that is that we swipe and we scroll on a screen. I have a 3-year-old daughter. Every screen that she sees, she thinks she can scroll. Papa, why is this not working? That's a TV. But we're taking that to the new level. That technology is going to be old. You've seen drones that can take pictures when you have a gesture. This technology, this startup, brings that and applies it to an everyday usage. So your mobile phone, with its camera, can take gestures. Right? We've worked with them actually with a manufacturer that might be looking at an in or an enclosed environment when you're going to work on a transportation mobility solution, so that in the future, when you have autonomous drive and you're no longer driving, how are you going to interact? What can you buy in these sort of environments? So there are 3 typical examples, and I'll go into a little bit of depth as to each of these examples and the startups and the technology as applied as we go through these slides. So the first challenge that all retailers have, obviously, is to understand the customer. The key word here is, are you relevant? How are you reaching a relevant audience, and do you understand them? It's no longer taking a big billboard somewhere and hoping that someone sees it and that hoping that someone engages with it and gets aware and drives sales. One of the startups that we've worked with recently is taking customer research and making it more native, more natural, and more scalable. What that means is, in the old days, customer research used to be done in focus groups. So I would take 10 of what I think are my ideal customers, and I put them in a room, and I show them a video, or I speak to them, or I show them a product. And then I analyze them and their reactions and ask them questions. What Synapbox has done is that they've moved it onto mobile, onto digital, which obviously means that you can reach a much wider audience. But more important than that, because a lot of the research needs to be done about video on a phone, or video on a laptop, or on a screen, or if you're doing customer research about an app, you want to be able to gauge the customer's reaction to that in its own environment, not in a focus group with a lot of other people. How does he interact on his phone with an app that is on his phone? That means that you can apply and ask him, hey, on your phone, in your natural environment, just before you go to bed, or if you're sitting on the toilet, to go and interact with this app and tell me what you think about it. So that's taking it to the next level. And Cinetbox has worked with lots of different top-tier brands in order to bring those customer research to market, whether that's a new branding strategy, whether that's a new video, what do people like about it, etc. And they do that with the mobile phone, and they're able, more than that, to look at facial recognition and also facial emotions. So you don't need to tell me what you think. I can see what you think from your face. So that's about making your customer journey relevant to your customer. You need to understand him. The second point here is about, once you understand him, how then do you engage him or her? And the key word here is, as we've talked about the customer journey, it needs to be seamless. Digital, non-digital, online, offline. How are you engaging with that customer in a natural way? And something very interesting here is that we've worked with a startup called Actimira. And what they have is that they've got a technology that brings an application or an interaction into a mirror. More than that, it allows an interaction with the mirror. It allows augmented reality with the mirror, and also a data collection through that mirror as how they're interacting. So because it's a mirror, and it's something that typically you would see in a fashion mall or in a makeup counter, it's much more seamless. Because you can have a camera, you can use augmented reality, and one of the applications here, if you go to their website, is that if you're at a counter and you're looking to see what shade of lipstick looks good on you, and you're looking in a mirror, Actimira allows that person to select the shade of lipstick, and it will show up on that image real time. Behind all this, as I've discussed, is that data collection and that personalization of that interaction. So as you click through using QR codes, using interactions, sending emails to yourself about the product that you're wearing or that you're interested in, all that data helps at the back end for the retailer to drive their decisions. This group of customers likes this interaction, likes that product. And that allows an iterative process to change, to learn, and again, upload to the mirror as fast as you can. The third thing and the last thing I'd like to talk to you about is the retention of that customer. And we heard from speakers previously about loyalty programs. And the key to this that we see is personalization. We've worked here with a startup called Perks. And what they're doing is that they have an end-to-end solution that includes loyalty, but they're taking the data from the retailer about the customer, shared with the customer, so that you can target a relevant audience with your loyalty program. It's no longer open up your loyalty platform where you have earn and burn, and you, as a customer, go and select what it is that you want. Do you want an electric toothbrush or you want a spa? Those are the two things that I've used before. But here, Perks, using data, is able to target the right audience at the right time, but also with the right reward. And again, as we think through this, as my experience as a consumer, my reaction to a brand or a business is the way that I experience my interactions with it. If it's able to tell me at the right time, in a non-intrusive way, something that I'm interested in, I start building that relationship with him. So that loyalty program is not just something that is static, that you can choose, again, a toothbrush, a spa voucher. But if you can tell me and target and tell me something that I'm looking for at the right time, with the right reward, in a seamless way, that's much more powerful. And Perks does that as an end-to-end solution. So I end with what I started with, to emphasize three things that we see. One, consumers are in power. They're the ones that are driving the trends in retail. Secondly, it is the technology that we see, especially with new startup technology, that can be applied, again, to large institutions, to large businesses, to large retails. that is going to be able to meet the customer demands of tomorrow. And the third thing is, as I've said, the customers are not waiting around. They are demanding the same experience that they're getting with the new technology, with the new startups, as it applies in all retail, business, banks, etc. Thank you very much. That's all I have time for. But if you'd like, I'll stick around and we can take this conversation further to hear more from you. And I'd like to share and engage with you myself. I'm Sui. My email address is sui@nest.vc. Please feel free to reach out to me. And as I said, I'll be off the stage a little bit. I'd be happy to speak to you more. Thank you very much. Thank you.
เอาล่ะขอเสียงปรบมือดังๆให้กับมิสเตอร์ซุยยังพางด้วยนะคะ Thank you very much for your presentations. Right now